point at this stage of the season. That good enough for you?
Not if you want to move up the table, of course not. Before the game, we wanted to go here and win. But to win, you have to earn the right. You have to play well, you have to take the fight, you have to win tackles, you have to play the passes better than what we did. We kept giving it away first half, and we never managed to build that pressure we wanted.
I thought that the way we went about our job tonight, I really can't fault it in any way. We didn't concede a lot of chances, and there were occasions, I thought, when we got the ball down in midfield and play where we actually showed that we might score a goal ourselves.
3 scoring blanks in a row. How much of a concern is that for you?
Of course it's a concern. You say that when you have 3 clean sheets in a row, that'll help you win games, because we have the quality to win games, but we haven't produced that quality.
Your 2 performances against Manchester United sort of sum up your 4 years here.
I saw the other day that the team that played Chelsea 2 or 3 games after I'd arrived here had 10 of the players who are still playing, or 10 of in the squad. The only player missing was Yohan Cabaye. So it's quite incredible. These guys have now spent 4 years working together, year after year, you know, doing our level best to keep the team in the league and keep our head above water. So I'm so proud of them, and so grateful to them, really, for what they've done for the club and for myself, because they certainly have never, ever let me down.
Yeah, you can see that, can't you? They can see that they play for him, and they did defend very well tonight, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. But I think the first thing to address, really, is this magnificent drop-off in form from Manchester United. If you go back to when they went top in January, they've dropped 15 points. Tonight, they're 14 behind Manchester City, which kind of tells you the tale, doesn't it? And it's actually the kind of what's going on around them has kept them up there, because other teams have also been dropping off. But can you just put it down to the whole kind of the tiredness, that, you know, maybe the game's coming so thick and fast? Is there something else that needs addressing?
I think there's quite a few things. I think Manchester United have been inconsistent for a number of years now. I don't think they have the players to compete at that top level. They're desperately seeking a world-class number 9. Cavani's a magnificent player, but doesn't get the service, doesn't make it happen. Bruno Fernandes looks fatigued. Rashford plays well at times, but then again is inconsistent. They struggled on the right-hand side tonight. Daniel James usually brings them a nice energy. Greenwood looked like he didn't want the opportunity and didn't really want to stamp his authority to say, well, I want to keep on playing every single week. And it almost seems like whenever Bruno Fernandes drops off, United drop off completely up front.
I think that's the thing. Ollie's spoken about he wants his United team, Manchester United team, to be quick on the attack, have these fast attacking players, and he normally uses terms like magic, a bit of zip about that, and exploiting spaces. But then what's your plan B when your team is a little fatigued, like Stephen's saying, when a team like Crystal Palace today isn't giving you that space because you're so organised? That's when today they come unstuck because it looked like they lacked ideas. What's next? And I think that's where they've struggled over the last couple of games.
Well, let's have a little closer look at how well they were organised, because they did defend brilliantly, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. What they did extremely well was poor mistake here from Gary Cahill, lack of communication, but then it's how quickly numbers get in and around the ball. Milivojevic, we know, is the type of midfielder who spots danger straight away. But look at the speed in which Joel Ward goes to close down. Cavani in the box thinks he's got an opportunity to shoot, and then he's got numbers in and around him.
It was just, for me, with Crystal Palace today, it is how well drilled they are, Stephen, and so organised. Every single player putting in a shift, doing the work, because you know if one player goes out of position or doesn't do that closing down, you are going to be opened up by this Manchester United team.
Yeah, there's a real understanding of the distances in between the defenders, in between the midfield and the defence, and then the way that they have to double up on the wide areas. Townsend and Joel Ward, I thought they had a great relationship between them. And they really defended as a team. And it sounds so simple, but the communication that comes in on that and the work rate that is set off by each player stepping out. Koyate tonight, what a performance from him.
And you think over the last couple of games, they've conceded 1 goal. So what a week they've actually had. And I know there's that frustration that sometimes it's not easy on the eye because they are so defensive and it's getting that balance.
Yeah.
But when you look over the last couple of seasons, they're in a stable position. Once again, they're not drawn into that relegation battle, and it's all down to their defensive performances like this evening.
Rather worryingly, we're focusing on defence up front. Actually, they had twice as many shots tonight than they did in their last 2 games.
Yeah.
But when Wilfried Zaha doesn't play, they don't tend to score 18 of their last 23. The stats could have been slightly better tonight if Jordan Ayew had managed to hit the back of the net, and he had a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, well, later on in the game, you're looking at the pass from Milivojevic into Van Aanholt, and it's actually Van Aanholt here who gets that opportunity to test Dean Henderson. But Dean Henderson, 23 years of age, young goalkeeper, not had much to do all game apart from kicking, a little bit of distribution. How quickly he comes off his line, spreads himself like Peter Schmeichel, does extremely well. And that was a big moment in the game because Manchester United could have lost the game late on.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, they'll go away from there. 3 goalless draws on the bounce, not been done since Van Gaal in 2015, scratching their heads about where their attack's going to come from.
It is. I think it's just what's next. What's the next idea? Like how you were saying with Greenwood, having those opportunities when other players, when you're starting in the lineup, grabbing that shirt and making it hard to be taken out of that. I don't think anyone did that for Manchester United this evening.
An understandable frustration.
Disappointment, as we said, you know, they didn't create anything offensively, and you think with the players they had on the pitch, they had more than enough out there to create, and it just wasn't there. Well, you mentioned tiredness, possibly the schedule, but sometimes, you know, he's been there as a United player. You understand that, you know, teams are going to sit in, and you got to force the issue. I think back then, you know, Sir Alex probably would have thrown on 3 or 4 strikers. He would have been one of them, and you just force the issue until you get it. And United really, as I said, didn't seem like they were ever going to score. You know, 1 shot on target, the ball wasn't really, the goalkeeper didn't really have to make a save, I think, at any point. So, just disappointing, I think, for United all around.
I remember being at Burnley in January when they won 1-0. They went top of the table. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was at pains to say to me, we're not looking at the table now, it doesn't mean anything. Since then, Alan, they've won 3 of 10 games. What's happened to them?
Well, teams make it... I think Man United are a better team when teams try and beat them, when teams try and go at them so they can hit you on the counter-attack. That's what one of their big strengths is with the pace of Rashford, of Greenwood, of Bruno, when they get on that ball and then they can attack you. But at times...
Is that sustainable over 38 league games, then?
No, because teams will do is it'll do what Crystal Palace have done this evening. That's when we know that they'll sit tight and they're not prepared to come out, and they'll say, well, OK, we're quite happy with the point. If you can't break us down, then so be it. And that's the attitude that Crystal Palace had tonight, and they had an attitude that they weren't going to be broken down. They were going to work hard in the midfield, close them down. And then it's up to Man United to stretch and to produce the piece of brilliance that's needed to turn the game, because once you get one, then Crystal Palace have to come out and play. But whilst it's 0-0, they were more than happy to sit there, and they didn't have the ability to break them down this evening, or the desire, or the pace of their game. And you can tell Ollie's upset and angry at their performance, because everything about it was mediocre.
From being top of the table to dropping those points, does that show that they really are still looking for that ultimate consistency in their play? They've obviously got one team the other side of the city who are remarkably consistent at the moment on the other end of the scale.
Yeah, but I think for United now, you think about the Sheffield United game, you know, they struggled to break Sheffield United down, struggled to break West Brom down, struggled to break Crystal Palace down. Manchester City with the utmost respect, would destroy those teams more often than not. And I think for United now, obviously against on the counter, especially away from home, they're probably the best team in Europe. Whereas if you can't win those games, you know, you think about those teams that you mentioned, you know, your West Broms and your Sheffield Uniteds, and then you're not going to be the champion, and you need something else, and you know, somebody. You need somebody to step up. You know, whether they knew that game was going to materialise that way, and still didn't provide any solution. So I'm thinking, could the forward players done more? Yeah, probably. But Al knows that better than me in terms of making runs. I don't think they were active enough. But then if I look, Fred's playing, he's not going to really find a pass, is he, for that, is he? Matic, he's probably not going to find that. So where's it going to come from? It needs to come from Bruno, but they crowded him out with probably 4 or 5 bodies. So it made it quite difficult for United. Then you're relying on the fullbacks. Can they get in the game? I thought Luke Shaw played probably quite well, but Wan-Bissaka didn't offer much. So for United, there were too many players that weren't at the level they need to be at the best.
You'll see a different Man United at the weekend because of the way Man City play. Man City, in a polite way, have no respect for anyone. They just go out and say, this is how we're going to play. We're all good enough on the ball. If you want to sit and defend, no problem. We'll pass with pace. All of the things that were missing from Man United's game tonight, Man City will try and attack them on Sunday, which will suit them because their game, a lot of their game, I should say, is what they're good at, is on the counter-attack. And Man United are not changing for anyone. Sorry, Man City, not changing for anyone. So that in itself should suit Man United more than the game tonight and what Crystal Palace do.
As you can see, a big couple of weeks ahead. The Manchester derby on Sunday, as Alan mentioned. Then the Europa League last 16 at home to AC Milan, and West Ham, who are 4th, of course, back at Old Trafford, David Moyes. Then they go to Milan. Then they go to Leicester in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup, and then a home game against Brighton, who may well, and Alan hopes so, still fighting for their place in the Premier League by that stage. I mean, that is some run ahead of them.
Yeah, look, they're tough fixtures, but the only one they're not favoured is the game against Manchester City. The rest of them, you know, they should beat a decent AC Milan side, but not a vintage one. West Ham have had a fabulous season, but Man United still have by far better players. So, look...
They've got better players than Sheffield United, West Brom and Crystal Palace, though, haven't they?
Yeah, but these, as I mentioned, these teams are going to play a little bit more. So United will probably pick these teams off. I think for the City game, I think it's going to be interesting to see how far they are away from that level. You know, in terms of City don't really miss much in recruitment. Every player that comes in seems to have an impact. For United, I feel they're working towards that consistency in the recruitment department, but then also on the pitch there. That makes a great point. City play one way. This is it. We play this way and we'll beat you at it. United can't be the dominant attacking side. You'll see that on Sunday. So what's the plan B when the counter-attack doesn't work? And that's what we're still trying to...
How long is it, do you think, that people will say, well, this manager has to win a trophy because it's been Man United?
I think he could win one this year. I really do. I think they're probably the best team left.
Do they have to?
I think they, especially after last season losing 3 semi-finals, I think this year's the opportunity to win one. I think if they can win one and finish second, I think that's considered a good season.
Absolutely.
But today, I think, is one of those signs where that consistency isn't there. And you know, Al, being a champion, you have to be consistent. And I think for United, if they're dropping points against those smaller teams, that's not consistent enough to be a champion.
Well, there's only one. I mean, Man City had their time at the beginning of the season, but other than Man City, in terms of who you'd expect to be in there, I'm not talking about West Ham or Everton or Leicester. Then there's only Man City that have had the consistency this year. But they have to find a way of undoing the lock when teams are prepared to sit and play like Crystal Palace do, or West Brom do, or Sheffield United have, and say, well, no, we're quite happy to sit, and if you haven't got the ability to beat us, then so be it.